Hello everybody and welcome back to Draft. This season 5 of the Regal Draft League. This season we are in a super exciting new format. We have Regulation F with Mythicals. This is currently being used in the Shuckle Premier League, but we are putting our own little twist on it. We're going to be unbanning or adding few other mythicals and even a couple of restricted. So we get to use both forms of Shaman, Ew, Volcanion, Super Unbound, Deoxys, except the attack form, and Diancie, name a few. Plus, we took a vote and we're adding in Darkrai, but with Dark Void banned, Arapagos, but Terra banned, base form Necrozma, and base form Kyurem. These are Pokemon that we never get to use in standard VGC because they're either banned or simply not very good. And I am incredibly excited for them. This did cause me personally a few issues because this being a completely new format, there was a lot of debate around the tiering, so I didn't get my usual prep time with firm tiers. It could be a good thing since I didn't have time to overthink everything and build like 500 squads and just get lost in the sauce. Or it could be a bad thing because I didn't get a lot of time to really dig in and find the value. I had some fun coming up with team ideas, but I deliberately didn't take it seriously because with the tiers subject to change, with us waiting on votes on the unbans, it could rip up any squad I put together, making that prep completely pointless. Like 1 point change on a single mon just completely throws that squad out the window. What I did do was look through and come up with some cores to build around and just try and figure out exactly what I wanted my team to do this season. So I set myself a couple of goals. I wanted a team where I knew most of the mons, that if needed I could just press buttons. I didn't want a team that was reliant on setup, and I didn't want a team that was reliant on a specific mechanic. So what this would mean is that the weeks where I can't do a ton of prep, I've got pets and spreads to fall back on. I've used the mons before. I can dig through my showdown and go, right, well, this spread works into this type of team, I can use that. This then enables me to just go into the match, rely on muscle memory, play it out, and give myself a much better chance to win than in previous seasons. If, for example, I'm running a stun team, I've got to look at the matchup and figure out how do they stop sun? How do they deal with this? How do they deal with that? And it makes those weeks really difficult. If I'm relying on setup, where's the fake out? Where's the taunt? Do they have haze, clear smog? I've got to really dig in. Whereas with a team that isn't reliant on those and has mons I've used before, I can just go and push buttons. With that in mind, the core I really wanted to build around MDG. Murkrow, Goldengo, Garchomp. I've mentioned so many times that this was the core that I built my very first VGC. And I've used it so many times. I know the lines. I know the sets and spreads that work in so many different matchups. The issue that I had was that Golden Go was more than likely going to be a very sought after Pokemon. So without a high draft pick, I wasn't guaranteed to get it. Now, I did think that round one could turn into kind of new toy syndrome, where everyone goes for the mythicals, leaving me to grab one of the stupid Pokemon that normally go in top 5 in one of the middle rounds. To cover for this, I came up with a few ideas around another core that I had a lot of experience with. Vax, Alolan Ninetales. This is going against one of my goals. It is somewhat reliant on snow. But it also isn't. I did a lot of practice and testing with different takes on snow leading up to my regionals. The team I initially wanted to take was Excalibur, Alolan Ninetales, Chi-Yu Flutter. That just went out the window. It just wasn't strong into the meta at that time. But I think I could put together a squad that I could pilot with very little thought and have a very good chance in most matchups. So while it breaks one goal, it really hits on the others. Finally though, we got the tiers, we got the draft order, and I had a huge decision to make. I once again got the number 3 pick. This time though, I did not want to take a support. Well, I didn't want to take Whimsel Torn. Outside of Annihilate, all my other first round picks have been supports. So this came down to 3 picks for me. Of course, Golden Go. But then with such a high pick, I had to do my due diligence and look at Bloodamane and Chien-Pao. Bloodamane is just a crazy strong special attacking Duke. No shade on anyone, but I don't think anyone has managed to use it to amazing effect so far in RDL. It's such a flexible Pokemon that you can run it as Speed Booster support and a ton of different tools. You can have it be bulky specs, Sash, Nuke, Life Orb. Hell, it's got such great coverage you could slap an expert belt on it. I love the idea of this Pokemon, but the downside of it being such a well-known mon that probably everyone has faced over and over again means it's not going to be easy in its standard form. So, but it kind of goes against that idea of just push buttons. Chien-Pao. This Pokemon enables so much. It makes mid-tier physical attackers hit so hard, while also hitting super hard itself. And with this being draft, you're not locked into that default dash set. I've been desperate to use Chien-Pao for a while, and I've had a ton of ideas about how I would build it and how I would build around it. Pao is definitely easier to do the push buttons, and team building could become so much fun with it. But I don't have a lot of experience with it, and the mons that I would potentially draft, but next to it, I would likely have zero experience. After a lot of deliberation and a pep talk from Twimberly, I went back to Dengo Murkrow. After the release of the tiers, we spent a good amount of time bouncing ideas around the Hack Pack Discord, and I lost access to a bunch of the mons I'd been looking at in that early brainstorming. Some of the mons that I wanted to build around, B had thought of as just incredible value. Garchomp, Brute Bonnet, Aquatauros, Sylveon, Flygon, and Beardeer. Because, of course, when you're building as a group in draft, you really don't want to be looking at the same mons. I had so many ideas of how to build around Gholdengo, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Yes, I lost a bunch of my budget heroes and a bunch of mons that I thought would be wrong on a Gholdengo team. I also lost my Chomp. But there was still a ton of value to be had across all of the teams. After much tweaking and deliberation, including a fantastic pointer from Tommy, what I came up with this. Gholdengo Murkrow, of course, was the dynamic duo, and we all know what that combo was. For redirection, I went with the Fairy. I really wanted one that wasn't weak to ground, which ruled out my favourite Follow Me Mon, Electabuzz. And for some weird reason, Clef just didn't come to mind. Yes, in a lot of ways, he gets completely shut down by Taunt. But with Friend Guard, Life Dew, Charm, Encore, it's just a lot of tools. And a lot of tools that work incredibly well with Gholdengo. I can't go into a season with only one really strong damage dealer. So I had to have a look at a Mon that complements Gholdengo. And I settled on Okie Dokie. At 13 points, this thing's a bargain. Yes, it kind of goes against my want of experience with a Mon, but I honestly think this thing plays similarly to Annihilate, but without Rage Fit. So I shouldn't have much trouble. It's a Mon I've been wanting to use for a long time. I've just never found the team for it, probably because I've been using type. But it fits really well here. It's the steel types that can give Gholdengo trouble, and Gholdengo hits the ghost and psychic types that give Dogi trouble. They just a really good duo, I think. I was really high on Suicune, 13 points. I always love a bulky water type, and I always love multiple speed control options. It's a Mon that I do have a little experience with since it's landed in Scarlet Violet, but mostly as a support Mon. Snarl, Icy Wind, Scald, all great supportive moves that actually do damage, and I love that with it. Throw in Tailwind, Roar, Rain Dance, you've got a solid if slightly expensive support Mon. But when you then look at the bulk and the option to run a Carmine Leftovers set with Substitute, and opponents having to respect your option to bring either, that 13 points suddenly looks way better value. On the Intimidate front, I had a few ideas about what I wanted to use. Gyarados was initially my first choice, but that was on the Goldengo Garchomp team. And now we have no Garchomp, and we're taking Suicune. So I don't really need the water or flying types. So I started to look at just solid cores. Dragon Fairy Steel, Firewall Grass, that sort of thing. Dragon type Intimidate would be Salamence. Fire would be either of the Arcanine. Since I already have a fighting type with Okidogi, I don't really want to go for Blaze Tauros. I'm trying to be frugal here, so I decided to go with the cheaper but not really any worse option in OG Arcanine. The final kind of must for a team I'm using is Fake Out. And there was only one I had my eye on since I started building this squad. Wacky. I love me some Rillaboom. But there's no way I'm paying 19 points for him. So let's take the angry middle kid of the line. I love the idea of Thwacky. So many options. And then you combine Friend Guard and Grassy Terrain. Dengo has so much survivability. Dogi with Drain Punch. Oh, that thing's going to live forever. Now, through all of this process, I was trying to save as many points as possible to let me have a last pick of one massive hit. So we have 2 Mons to grab before we can then splash the cash. I really just like having that open slot at the end where I can just go through what's remaining, all the points I've got, and go, you know what, that would fit really well here. I can't believe no one's drafted it. There were 2 things I wanted. Fast screens and a Trick Room setter. For as few points as possible while still being reliable at their job. 2 points, initially 3, and I've got to change it on most of my draft idea boards. Diagonal, absolutely perfect. Fast enough at 105. As screens, Ace, Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, Ice Spinner if there's a terrain team I don't want to bring Flacky into. Honestly, it's just perfect for what I wanted out of that slot. And then, last but not least, what I think is a really underrated room setter, the Raffle Rig. But in a focus, so it can't be faked out, solid stat line, since for the longest time it was actually a final evolution, and it also has a lot of tools. 2 points again. Bargain. If I bring this thing to 1 match, it's been valuable. This left me with 16 points on my big hitter. I have to admit, I looked long and hard at Darkrai, but it didn't seem to have the options I was looking for that last slot. I also like the look of Reggie Drago, but again, it just seemed to be too one-dimensional. The original team had Meowscarada on it, but it also didn't have Thwacky. Then Tommy, in his usual half-joking mode, pointed out, and I quote, "Rip anyone who wants to bring a fairy type." And that's the only team Komao would feel safe on. So that's who I added. It really fit what I was looking for in that last slot. A Pokemon that could be run in almost whatever way the team needed that week. I could run Specs, Choice Band, physical setup, special setup, and defense body press, and I've been looking for a Komodo run back since the Toros incident, and first time ever I didn't get sniped. I didn't get sniped a single time, not one mon. This was the exact team I drafted. I was in shock. But this is not the squad we're going into the season with. I spotted a Pokemon in round 4 that still hadn't been drafted. I thought was going to be at least top 5 pick. I just had to figure out how to make it fit on the squad. At that point, very, very few teams had the points remaining to draft it. So I did not think it would go. There were 1 or 2 teams I could see potentially taking it, but I was fairly certain, even at that point, that it was not going to get picked up. Sure enough, one of the most oppressive, broken Pokemon in draft made it to free agency. Gouging Fire. Look, I didn't want a Sun team. And honestly, this doesn't have to be a Sun team. Gouging Fire has a ridiculous damage output even without the Sun. It's also got a ton of support to it. Okay, it doesn't have the offensive versatility of Komodo. But Komodo also doesn't have any real support options. To acquire Tricera Entei, I had to drop Suicune Blastoise. But I honestly didn't mind. Blasty has like 90% of what I wanted Suicune for, so it's not the worst trade ever, especially as I gain a second fake out option and the potential for water spout in the rain. So this is the Woobats squad for season 5. Let me know what you think. Week 1 is right around the corner and we're up against an old nemesis. Let's hope we can get off a fast start before anyone catches on to how insane this squad is.